All right, guys, today we got Nickky Bobby, otherwise known as Nick Taylor, and Ryan Moon, his right-hand man, and they are down here for Sick Week and also helping Kai run his car, I guess?
Yeah, we got talked into that one. It's mainly just like, this would be cool to learn. Let's go do that. He was trying to get Alex to drive it, but she had other obligations, so...
He runs a pretty tight ship there. Not a whole lot of people. It's not like there's like 40 people running around there. There's like 3.
2.
And
Well, he's got 2 and like his tuner. That's it.
And then they're both like, like 20-something-year-old.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They're hardworking, but still, I mean, it's not like a...
Yeah, they're good kids, but yeah, they're smart. They were on it today. We got there, they were doing everything, and I'm like, I need a checklist. He's like, it's on the wall. Go take a picture.
That's cool, man. It was so cool to see that car win.
Yeah.
That whole deal. And then he brought out the other car on a radial, which was...
Gave me 2 test passes on it. He said it went right down. So I guess that's the one that we're, I guess, in charge of doing. We were only there for like an hour and a half today. So that's as much rundown as we got. And we're going right into it tomorrow. So.
Yeah, not much you can do. You hang out in the swamp all day or you just kind of...
Yep. Well, that's the thing. We were at Orlando and it was so cold. And we're like, do we just go ahead and leave now? I don't know what else to do. It's so cold. We're not testing there. Our cars are all locked up in the trailer. So,
yeah.
We already loaded. We sat around all day yesterday, kind of waiting on rain. Didn't do much, so no point on staying there.
Kind of the crutch of it all is everybody's trying to test for Sick Week, and then we got this crazy rain. Because you're down here with your car, which you skipped the last year or 2 years with it?
2 years, yeah. So I did 22. I did the first Sick Week in my car, and then I attempted Sick Summer last year, and that's as far as I got. I had like 11 passes on the car after the first Sick Week, and I wrecked it. And then I got it back together and attempted Sick Summer, and I blew it up the first pass of the first day. And I had spent all my money on a truck and trailer the week before. So once it blew it up, I'm like, well, that's the end of my racing season. So, yeah.
And for people that don't know, Uncle Sam, is it an old Pro Stock car?
I don't know. It's kind of like it was built in 91. It was built in 91, painted in 92. And it's been a drag car ever since. I think it's like an old outlaw door car. I mean, Pro Stock-ish, I guess. It had a Linko in it at one point.
It has like a look to it that you're like, this isn't modern.
No, yeah.
You can tell it's something. You
can feel the soul. When you look at it, you know that the car's got character. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, that's what's always been cool about it. That's what always kind of draws people like, 1320 to film it. And even like everybody on Sick Week get excited about it because it's got this unique flavor to it.
And it's nostalgic.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic. And I get a lot of people messaging like, is that car from West Virginia or Virginia? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was the same car. I know this guy that drove it back in the day, and I saw it race here. And it was so crazy. The first Sick Week we did, the day, my first 6-second pass is right before it. A guy come up and he's like, did you buy this from Virginia from this guy? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that guy used to drive this car, right? I was like, yeah. And he said, my best friend owned this car. He was on his deathbed, and I was supposed to buy it, but I didn't get to buy it. And the guy that drove it bought it in an estate sale. He's like, so I was actually supposed to own this car. He's like, but I love to see that you have this car, whatever. And then like 20 minutes later, I went and made my first 6-second pass, and he came over. He's like, it's so crazy that I'm here and get to see this car on this day. It makes me think of my friend, and I get to see you go a 6. And it was like the weirdest thing ever that we would be in the same place at the same time. It was awesome.
You almost can't ever change the look now. The paint job on it.
No, yeah.
It's like a permanent.
Yep. And it's weird that I bought the car right in the, the Cletus, red, white, and blue, all that stuff. That's so, like, not that I'm not American at all, but I've never been real flashy like that. And I bought the car. I'm like, well, I got to name it Uncle Sam, So, and now that I have that scheme, it's like, I just embrace it. I love it.
What'd you get the chassis for?
So I bought the car running and driving with a 632 60 cert chassis for $40,000.
Okay.
And I sold the motor, and then I got a motor sponsored, and I got turbo sponsored, and I pretty much just had to buy the EFI. So I probably had like $50,000 in the car, and I went 6s.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It was, it's everything I had to go. You know? But yeah, that's
Was the guy like, I was going to buy this thing, how dare you put an LS in it?
No, and the guy didn't want to sell. He tried to back out on selling it to me, and I was like, I'll leave right now. Me and him and our old video guy, we drove overnight just so the guy wouldn't back out, and I literally had a pillow sack full of money and gave it to him. And it was the most money I'd ever had in my life.
We had just drove out from Indiana to North Carolina the weekend before.
Sold our old car,
Mountain Dew. And then we get home, and then literally, like, I think it was like Monday night. He was like, we're going back to Virginia. I found a car. All right,
well, that's the whole reason I sold Mountain Dew was to buy that car. And then he tried to back out. I'm like, I don't have a car now, dude. Like, I sold my car to buy this one. And so it worked out, though. I love that car. It's Alex says the only reason she noticed me was because of that car. So I'm never allowed to get rid of it.
But your cousin that you're dating, right?
Yeah. well, I'm engaged to my cousin.
Oh, you're here. Yeah, you're engaged.
Yep.
Of course.
Started from the bottom. Now we're here
with the West Virginia car. I mean.
Yeah. I mean. Now we're in Arkansas. It all works out that way.
It all works out.
I'm never gonna check the family tree. Trust me.
No, probably worth not checking it. And then you moved out to Arkansas.
Yep.
And you bought like a city block.
No, not exactly. That's a funny story too. You know, it all happened at just such a weird time. And then me and my business partner split up, and I moved out there, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. Because when we split up, I'm like, well, I'm either going to move to Kentucky, because that's where Tin Soldiers is, or, like, if we're going to be together, I might as well move out there. So I moved out there, and then, these buildings came up, and, of course, I'm just some broke kid. I'm like, I'll never get approved for these buildings. And the guy's like, he looked at my QuickBooks, and he's like, I think we can do that. I'm like, really? Huh. So I got to buy these 2 old buildings. One of them was built in 1923, and the other one was built in 1913, or 1910.
Wow.
Yeah. So slowly renovating those, slowly trying to build a business, and slowly trying to convince him to move out there.
The buildings are cool too when you talk about like character.
Oh, that's the other thing, man. Those were old hardware stores. You know, Alex's dad, Dennis, he tells me all the time, he's like, I used to come in here. People built all of these houses in this town from this hardware store. You know, it's another thing that you walk in, you like feel the history, like the soul. You could feel it, you know, and it makes for an interesting workplace.
Yeah, it does seem cool. It seems like a cool layout. So now you're here for Sick Week. So this comes out Monday, just so you know. So, you know, if you have videos coming out, you're not spoiling anything or.
Oh, no, I've got the.
Or anybody else's videos. Right?
No, I don't. I've just always trying to keep up as it is. I never have like a backlog of videos. I'm not that organized. No, I have a Sick Week testing video. I was going to see if I could steal your Wi-Fi and upload it here because I don't have any Wi-Fi. I just edited it last night. So, we were there this past week, and it went I made one full pass, and I blew the valve cover gasket out, but it went 7.0s on like 32 pounds of boost. So I was happy with that. And the 108.60, which is...
Okay.
I went the best 330 I've ever been. I went 295 to a 330, so... And
it's still on the big tire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You have not decided to put a radial on it yet?
No, because I put my motor really far back.
Oh, okay.
And if I put a radial on it, it would just... It'd probably flip over.
Yeah, you'd have to move the turbos probably up to.
Yeah, I'd have to add so much weight to it, and it's just like I like the big tires and wheelie bars. I never worry about spinning, and I never worry about wheeling.
Yeah, but I feel like you're a radial guy at heart. To see you put the big tires on was, you didn't put the big tires on. I guess you got a big tire car.
That is somewhat true. I'm a small tire guy at heart.
I'm trying to say big tires suck.
No, they don't.
In extra words.
You've never driven...
To be honest, we used to say the same thing.
People that say big tires suck have never driven a big tire car.
Trust me, I've heard some things about big tire come out of this guy's mouth, and then one day we went and got a big tire car, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did try to build the car to go fast so Alex would notice me. So I swallowed my pride there, but then once I drove, I'm like, wow. This ain't so bad.
Yeah.
I really bought the car because of the chassis, and I never intended to keep it on big tires, but it's weird because so when I was younger, I did the street car takeover stuff, and then I got into drag week, and then I've always loved street racing, so I got into like this backtrack, no prep street racing thing, and then I got burnt out on that, and I made like this car happened, and I just oddly made my way back to drag and drive, and I wasn't planning on it. And once I went back to drag and drive, I'm like, this is really fun. I actually really enjoy this, and this big tire stuff's not so bad. And I don't know, it's weird. It's weird. I just like going fast.
Yeah, makes sense. I feel like having like a drag and drive car, you know, I did it in a slow 10-second car, and it just didn't scratch the itch enough for me. And even now, I'm going to do it in like an 8-second car, like a mid 8-second car. And I hope that scratches the itch because that'd be nice financially.
Yep. It's
But
hard, man.
You know how that goes.
It's weird, and I always just wanted to be part of, like, just part of it. I wanted to be involved, like a participant.
Yeah.
And now and it's weird because I'm not like a very competitive person, but now I'm like, I want to go. If I'm going to go and spend all my time and the money I don't have to go, I want to be fast and I want to be competitive. So
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. It brings out a different side of me, I guess.
Well, if you can consistently get a 6-second slip would be awesome. To do a 6-second average at a drag and drive is not something many people have been able to do.
Yeah, I've never done it. I've only went sixes one time, one pass. But again, I was talking to a guy that was there helping Alex the other day, and he's like, what does this car normally do? I'm like, this is like the 20th pass on the car since I've had it. I don't know what it normally does. Like,
it's like brake. I don't know.
Yeah, wreck or brake. That's what I normally do. So let's just
3 different motors.
If I could just make a clean pass, that's what I would like for it to normally do.
Yeah.
It was so easy. I mean, we got the car out and it surprised us and it worked so well. And then it's just fought me ever since. But I don't know. It's just something about the car. I love it. I've driven a lot of other people's cars and I've got the opportunity to drive a lot of nice cars this year. And like, I love them. I love driving cars, but it's not the same as your car, you know, that you built and all that, even though I didn't build the chassis. But I guess technically I cut it in half and rebuilt it after the wreck. So
Did you change anything on the front or did you just go for the same?
strut cups, new struts. I mean, the struts that were on the front of it when I did Sick Week, they were like 90s. They're like the first strange spindle mount struts ever made.
Yeah.
They had like the
best of the best 25 years ago.
Yes, the strange brakes, the actual brake pads, you screwed them in with a screw into the caliper, and they were this big.
Oh, wow.
And it was, I did the whole week on the front, the small little spindle mounts with bias ply tires on the front, and it's just, it still doesn't have roll-up windows, but.
See, that to me, like, I don't know. I get too much, like, worry about things like that, and front brakes on a drag and drive is kind of scary, and you just were like, all right, this is what's on the car, I'll do it.
Put her down in the low gear and swerve a lot, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Put her in the ditch.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. You know, if you have to bump the person in front of you a little bit.
It's a pace car.
We've done a lot on less.
Well, it's not. I mean, that's some of the best stuff there is. It's just not made for driving every day, I guess. But
And Florida's a little different too because when you drive the streets of Florida, you're not going up and down hills. It's not like Rocky Mountain where
the roads are nice, pretty nice. I feel like here too.
Yeah, I mean, when you go like to Rocky Mountain Race Week, it's scary if you don't have a car with like actual good braking.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be going downhill for a long period of time.
And you can be hours from anything at Rocky Mountain Race Week. You know, like you could be literally out in the middle of nowhere, which
desert.
Yeah.
The farthest from my house we get is like 3 hours. From my house. That's
Your
South
wife could
Georgia.
literally just come pick you up. You know, if something breaks, like, hey, can you come pick me up?
Call a buddy, phone a friend. Yeah.
We can take an Uber to the house and then go back and get the vehicle. You know, like,
Yeah.
It's great. And being in the backyard is nice. But I feel like they have some stuff going on by you out in Arkansas now.
There's a couple, yeah, and I mean, I can't even keep up anymore, man. There's a million drag and drives now. Like when I did my first one in 2015, and the only two were Drag Week and Rocky Mountain Race Week had just started the year before in 2014. So it's like those were the only two, and now there's like 2 every week.
Yeah, you can go anywhere in the country, just throw a dart and pick where you're at and go from there, which makes it great, but also kind of dilutes it a little bit.
So it's like me and Jason from Tin Soldiers, we've talked about this a million times. It's like the history repeating itself, different class. You know, X275 has its day, front side no prep has its time, backside no prep has its time, drag and drive, you know, street car takeover, that style stuff. Like, I think that'll always be here to stay, but it grows and goes down. Like, it's just this roller coaster of popularity, and it just, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, we're in definitely the boom, I would say, of it.
Yeah.
And it's great to be, you know, in the right place, right time, I guess, because we kind of missed like early radial stuff, and that was like when it was slow and reasonable. Now it's like, all right, I guess I don't go 340s on a radial, so I ain't shit.
Exactly. I know. Like, what are you supposed to do? You got to have millions. it takes millions.
Oh yeah, like a car like Garrett's Eagle, like that is a millions of dollars car to own and operate.
Yep.
Millions.
That's what it takes.
Yeah,
And
people don't even think about after even building it, what it takes to even just operate.
Finish
the
it,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, having the crew with you to go places, that's another hard thing. Having the people to actually go and help you. And
it's $1,000 to enter a race for you and your crew. It's a lot of money.
You see it all the time where it's like a car gets finished and it's like for sale.
Yeah.
Because
For
they
half the
bring it to
price.
the track once and then they're like, whoa, this was not as fun as my street car. I don't think I'm not all for this.
That's why, and it's weird because like, especially being around Dennis and Alex, Dennis is a build it person, and like that's what makes him so special. And I love building stuff, but financially, it's like I would rather buy a finished race car because you get it for pennies on a dollar.
Yeah.
It's like not a wise financial investment, but it's way more wise than paying somebody to build a fully custom car. It's like
I've seen it bite people in the ass pretty bad too, though, if they don't know what they're looking at and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
look at all the cage sold.
yeah.
And then it's like,
Yeah, well, this
he might have
doesn't
sold it
work
for a
right.
different reason.
Yeah.
He might have been
Those
like,
bars are in the wrong place.
yeah.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I saw it happen a few times. I think one of them is, not to call him out too much, but Finnegan got that Lexus.
Oh yeah,
I think that
having it
needs
all cut out.
a lot more work to get finished than what he imagined it would take. Mm-hmm. And not that he doesn't know what he's looking at, but like it's a drag car. It's you got to really know.
Yep.
I wouldn't know what I'm looking at. I'd be like, oh, bars, cage, firewall, cool.
Well, say you buy a roller and it's got a mid plate and all that set, and you're like, wow, this all, even if it is good work, but it's set up for a 2J instead of something else. You're like, okay, well, the mid plate doesn't work, so the firewall doesn't work, so then the front plate's not going to work. Like the whole K member's too low or too high or whatever. It's like now you got to pay just as much money to have it redone than you did just to do it to something in the first place.
And then you show up to your chassis shop and they're like, cool, we'll pencil you in for 2027. See you then.
That's the hardest part, man. It's if you do good work now, if you're not a total POS, you're backlogged for a long time.
Well, all the really good shops are trying to get out of doing chassis work, like Tin Soldier.
Yep, parts production.
Yeah,
that's where the
exactly.
money's at, man.
But people are probably begging them, like, please work on my car because no one else
It's hard to
is
find good work.
to.
Yep. I see a lot of hateful, not hateful, but kind of spiteful comments. I don't know how so-and-so got their car in there. I called and they said they don't do work anymore. It's like, yeah, because they don't do work anymore. They do work on their friends' cars, but they're not taking on new work. And I don't know, some people don't understand it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they'll help their team out.
Well,
Like,
and then you get to pick and choose at that point too. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one of those things. You get out of it. Okay, we'll just bring in one or
You
two
get to
cars
learn,
a
yeah.
year to build and do that because they're like us. You know, they build cars. They're never gonna not build cars. They enjoy building cars. It's
Yeah, I don't
it's kinda
build
that
cars. I mean,
aspect.
we used to work together and I had a fab shop, and it's like, it's hard to have a fab shop. It's hard to bill enough hours to be a successful fab shop unless you have a whole crew of guys turning out cars, and like it's a very well-oiled system to make good money, and the money's in parts. So then when people go from building cars to parts, all the people that want you to build their cars, they don't understand why you don't want to build their cars anymore.
well, there's like no hourly estimate that's going to really be accurate. And
Nope.
then when you show up and you're like, yeah, it was 20 hours. And it's like, well, you put one bar in. It's like, yeah, it was 20 hours.
I had to move all this stuff to get to the one bar. It took me 5 minutes to cut this tab, but then like this tab didn't fit just right, and I wanted it to look good and all that. So it took me 5 hours to do this.
Then I had to
one.
make a tool.
Yeah.
That took time. And it's like, oh, man.
Well, then the other way too. You get in there and the experience. It takes you 2 hours, and you want to charge them $600. You're like, well, you only put 2 hours into my car.
Paying
Why
for
is
the
it so much?
experience.
Like, dude, like.
Yeah.
You either bitch that it's too long or you don't that it's too short. Like, what do you want from me? It's rough.
It's always a give and take. That's why I'm glad I'm not in that realm anymore. I enjoyed doing it, but I really, really enjoy business now. Like before, it kind of felt like a job. Now I enjoy trying to design stuff and like come up with new stuff, like use my brain and be able to make something nobody else offers or something like that.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
fill a spot in the market and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's crazy because I was noticing like you 3D print a lot of stuff and make a lot of CAD stuff, and it seems like the amount of people that are making custom 3D and CAD stuff has ballooned so
Oh, yeah.
much. I don't know if it was like, a COVID thing, everybody learned a new skill and they all learned CAD
well,
and
it's
got a 3D printer.
it's like the Harbor Freight effect. So Harbor Freight came about and everybody can buy a TIG welder now or buy a bandsaw and all this stuff. And Dennis talks about this often. Like having a TIG welder back in the 90s, you were somebody, you know, or even the 80s.
Yeah.
Now everybody has a TIG welder. It's the same way with, like, I have a Tormach CNC mill. It's an itty bitty mill. You could fit 10 of them in this room.
Yeah.
They're made to go in your garage, and I can produce parts on it. So it makes anybody a CNC machinist, you know. And I taught myself how to TIG weld on YouTube. I taught myself how to use a CNC machine on YouTube. I taught myself how to design in CAD on YouTube. Like, YouTube is the reason I know so much stuff, like people that share their knowledge. So it's a lot different nowadays than it was back then. It's easier to get your hands on those CNC mills, just like it is to get a TIG welder. And now it's easier to get your hands on a 3D printer. Like, you can find them on Marketplace. That's where I find everything, Marketplace.
Well, even the amount of people I see that make 3D parts, that the 3D part is what ends up on the car. Like holding fuel lines or like little tiny brackets because they're pretty strong now.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
it seems light too.
Intakes, all kinds of stuff.
The worst part is the
crazy
heat.
stuff.
But like the actual, just the plastic PLA stuff you can get, it's strong. Like the tensile strength's there. It just can't handle the heat sometimes. But if it's under the car, like you're good to go.
And then even the plasma tables that cut out everything. It's crazy how many parts can be made in a house.
Yeah. Yeah.
In someone's 2-car garage
Yep.
can make some really cool shit now.
I didn't think about this until I watched this video of a guy that the CEO of Tormach. He was at this like convention they were having, and they have a robotic arm now, and it's made to, you know, load and unload your CNC machine or be a robotic welder, whatever. You kind of like motion. They have this circle of machines and they have this robot that
Gary
24/7. Yeah. But like he was talking, he said, you used to have to go have an engineering degree to do the automation side of production and to be able to work a robotic arm like this. He said, now, just like we've done with CNC mills, we're going to take this and make it for the hobbyist. This robotic arm can be in your garage, loading and unloading your CNC or welding stuff for you while you're inside. Like,
they even pack stuff. I even see them on packing
they
stuff.
can literally, you can program it to do anything.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be using so much electricity in their home garage.
I know.
It's going to be like, man, there's a real spike in that neighborhood all of a sudden. The guy's got 3 CNC machines plugged in.
It's crazy,
Yeah,
man.
the plasma table over there is working in that CNC machine.
Got a whole assembly line in his garage. But that's the coolest part. I mean, I come from a little garage in Indianapolis where, like, me and my dad, you couldn't open the doors to our cars. We're building both our cars, and we've got any spare bracket we had a trash can lid full. Like, that's where you put all the spare metal, and you could either make a throttle cable bracket or something out of the spare stuff. And
you put it in a vise
bolt
and
bin. Yeah, and it's like, I used to stare at the Summit catalogs and see like a billet, like throttle cable, and think one day I'm gonna have enough money to buy one of those throttle cables. And it's like, now you can 3D print one, or I can mill one. And it's, back then nobody had a CNC mill in their garage, and you know, if you did, you were actually had a successful business producing something by then. You can't just find one on Marketplace and go buy it. Like, we live in, and us are part of a generation that didn't have the technology, and then we came into the technology, and it's like, I feel like I have a greater appreciation for it because I know what life is like without it. And now I know what it's like with it, and I know how it can be used for bad, but I can't imagine life without it now because I know what it's like without it.
Well, it's so cool. And, you know, to think about some of the machines, a Bridgeport will always be awesome. And
I have
it'll
one of
always
those.
be valuable. You see like an old Bridgeport somewhere and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's like from like the 40s, building World War II planes, and you're like,
That
cool.
It's so funny you say that, because as you were saying that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to tell him about what Dennis told me, because I bought some from an auction, and that's exactly what he said. He's like, the guy that was running that machine in an old factory during the World War, building planes, they were hand making all this stuff, and they could run that better than half the CNC machines run now. And it's like the buildings or the car, like you can feel like they have a soul.
Yeah, the Bridgeports and like things like that, like old, like even when you think about like hardware, like making grade 8 hardware takes like specialty equipment that not many people have.
Yep.
And they only made them like 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Those machines are like hard to come by now.
It's like the wood. Some of the wood in my buildings, it's like an old 2x4 is really 2x4 inches.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the better grade wood than you could find anywhere in the country now. You know?
Home Depot's usually got like the bent
You
a little
scratch it with
bit.
your nail, and you could basically peel it back. It's so soft.
Not the 100-year-old wood where you can count all the bands on it and stuff. Yeah, machinery stuff's cool. It is sad because you see, like, you know, what you're talking about. Those things aren't going to be here in 10 years. That thing's going to be so obsolete in 10 years.
That's the other thing, though. Like, my little CNC mill, I can't manually just jog it around and do something. That's why I bought the other one.
Yeah.
I can literally throw a part on it, be done. The other one, you got to program it and do all that other BS. It's like they still somehow have their place, like a MIG welder. I never thought I'd use a MIG welder again. Somebody told me MIG welders don't belong around race cars. Well, when you're producing parts, you can make a MIG weld look as good as a TIG weld if you know how to do it, and you can do it 10 times faster, and it's just as strong.
I feel like it's just one of those, like, pinky out, like, TIG welders only.
Yeah. Yep.
You're going to MIG weld around here? Well, when they were building all those, like, aluminum jet boats, they were MIG welding all that.
Really?
And it was just like a spool.
Yeah.
And
It's just like anything else. You just do it right, and it looks nice.
yeah, well, the aluminum is such a pain in the ass, and there's so many big gaps and stuff. Like, what are you gonna freaking do?
You can't TIG weld that. A MIG weld looks better if you're filling a gap than if you TIG it.
And especially on an aluminum hulled boat.
Yeah. No thanks. I want to do it right.
So what's your hope for Sick Week here?
So my dad's coming. He tried to go to Six Summer with me, and he's never actually done a drag and drive, and that's when I blew up. So we did it in he's got an SS Camaro, but I really just, I would love to run sixes all week, and I'm not even talking like I don't want to go 650s. I obviously want to, but if I could get like a 699 each day or close to it, which I went 704 at 181, so I know I can go sixes now with the combo that's in it, with actually a lot less power than what's normally in it.
The eighth must have been pretty fast on that then.
The 450.
Okay.
452 at like 151, so it's like still wasn't even that fast. But that's when I went 295. Like my car goes to the 330 and then just kind of like stops going. It's a little baby LS motor. It doesn't have much.
Is it a Glide or a 400 in there?
Glide.
That's probably why. Yeah.
Yep.
I suffer from the Glide struggles as well.
The soup sandwich.
When you're just kind of like, come on, where's the rest of the horsepower?
One more.
Yep. So what everybody says, and when I say I got a Glide, you're like, oh, on a big tire car? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, well, I'm done talking to you.
I say that too. I'm like, yeah, it's got a Glide. And they're like, why not a 400? I'm like, have you shopped for a 400 yet?
They're heavy too, man.
Or they're like, it'd be a lot better if it had a 400. I'm like, I know. You're not like,
Yep.
It'd also be a lot better with a billet big block. What are we talking about?
This is what I have, all right? That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But
it works.
Look what we got.
Yeah.
It's nice and simple.
I know how to rebuild a Glide. Like, I enjoy Glides. I like Glides, especially like backtrack racing Glides. That's where it's at.
That was an 8 mile. Like, I mean, that's good right there.
It's
that's
just
nice.
the quarter mile is hard with a Glide because you're just kind of hanging in RPM. Like, it's hard on everything, and I'm starting to learn that because like I really don't know much about tuning. I know power management, but I don't know. Like, I'm starting to learn more about
No lockup.
Yeah, EGT, like all that stuff, like trying to keep the heat out of the cylinder. And I just like I said, I want to go. I want to have a good week with my dad. I want Alex to have a good week. I want, like, he's here. We're doing a car on my YouTube channel. He's got a 3rd gen Camaro that he's going to be driving this week. We're going to do a giveaway on. Like, we're going to fix it up and do, like, design some parts for it, use it for R&D, and then, like, do a giveaway with it later on our YouTube channel. And so he's never got to do a drag and drive. He's followed on Rocky Mountain one time, but he's never got to drive a cool car. I mean, he's got a cool car, but he's never done a drag and drive in something cool. So it's just like a big, fun event, I think. And obviously, I like going fast, but I'm trying to enjoy stuff more now. Like I said, like I had that competitive side come out, and I'm trying to gear that more towards business and enjoy racing again, because it got to a point where I really didn't enjoy racing for a long time. So
What made you not enjoy it, you think?
there's a lot. I mean, there was a lot of moving parts. When we had my old business, like, we went racing every weekend.
Before you had Uncle Sam, you had one car then.
The Mountain Dew. Yeah, Mountain Dew, and I had a Malibu called
What
the Malibu.
was Mountain Dew for the people?
It was 2000. I think it was just a 2000 Mustang, green Mustang. It had a white front end, twin turbo LS deal. We did Hoonigan this versus that. We actually did Drag Week and Rocky Mountain in it. And we street raced in Compton. We street raced everywhere, all over the country. We did everything with it, really, and it was pretty competitive. It never it was never what I wanted it to be. But I also had a partner in the car, which was my friend Lon, and he was awesome. It was one of those things where I think the car, we needed to do a lot to the car. And I'm like, well, I'm going to spend 6 months of my life cutting this car apart, or we could sell it now, and I could buy this car that's all mine for what I would get out of half this car. So that's what I did. But we raced a lot, and like, I won't get into too many specifics, but the business wasn't what I wanted it to be. And it's like we went racing every weekend, and then like to go racing, you had to do good, or else you had to try to make up what you spent going racing the next week. And it really takes the fun out of racing. And we had a great group of guys, and it just kept growing and growing to a really big group of people that we went racing with, and it just ended up just being a little too much. It felt more like a job.
Where were you, St. Louis at the time, or
Indianapolis?
Indianapolis.
Yeah. Well, northern Indiana at that time, Fort Wayne.
Yeah, close to the Michigan border.
Yeah, so it was just the hectic over.
We just had a lot of good friends that were customers, and we wanted them to do good, and then we're rolling to races 10, 12 cars deep, and it's like
we did really good. It just
and we loved going to the races. We had fun. It just was a lot to make sure our cars were doing good, but then also making sure that the customer, our friends, were also doing good.
There becomes that blurred line, like I'm here for me, but then you have all these customers here also that expect you to help them do good too. And we had good customers. It just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. It became not what I wanted to do. So
when you fall into that deal, it's like, oh, just quickly weld this for me real quick, like. Quickly do, help me out here. And, like, you obviously want to help them. And they're your friend. You race with them. Yeah. You don't want them to miss the race because you didn't spend 10 minutes helping them, but 10 minutes on everybody's car.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have time for next round. Car.
Yeah, Then,
Well, then every one of us that worked in the shop had a car. So it was like, when we left.
We worked on all of our own cars all week.
Yeah.
We worked on all of our own cars all week. Then we left to go racing, and nobody was at the shop making any money. So it's like, it's hard to do stuff like
8
that.
8 to 5, then after 5, hey, pull out a car, pull our rental cars, let's go, like, get it ready. Like,
I've always thought, and I've told people this too, like, I thought that was going to be like my West Coast choppers, and then I realized it might be the thing that could potentially be holding me back in the long run. And it like just gave me this really uneasy feeling because I didn't want to believe it. Yeah. And then like everything, all the shit kind of hit the fan, and me and my business partner split up, and like, it hurt at first, but then I realized, like, this is probably the best. Like, when stuff like this happens, normally it's for the better, and normally I end up feeling it's the best thing that ever happened. Like, it sucks that I moved away from my family after that and all that, but, my friends. But now I feel like I'm building something a lot bigger that could be way bigger. Like, I can see where I want myself to go, and I can see it happening. So now I'm like, okay, well, now I want to enjoy getting there. I used to always just look forward and see where I wanted to go and try to get there, but now I want to enjoy the process of getting there, and like
living more in the moment.
Yeah, and that's why I think I can enjoy racing now more. Like, I'm not just like, I don't just want to say I wish I could win this event. I'm just like, I just want to go there and enjoy it, and like, because when I go and have fun, I do way better than if I'll put too much pressure on myself.
Really, the races we used to win, we went not expecting to win. It was kind of like one of those like, oh, okay, cool. Like, this worked out. Like,
show up here in the finals, you're like, man, I didn't bring enough stuff to be here. Like, I don't have enough gas for this.
Borrow some E85, please.
We're going to the finals. Like, well, this breaks. Hose clamp, this brake closed. Like, oh well,
I've raced with 3 brakes a lot of times because.
Well, before we went out to Hoonigan's,
I ran with 3 brakes out there. Yeah.
Well, he won. We had
2 classes in one day.
Yeah, he won small tire and big tire. He's like, well, I guess we got money to go out there now, so let's go.
Yeah,
like,
but
cool.
my tires were bald, and we went out there racing 2 classes. So we did like crap out there, but it was a great.
When I go racing, because my car takes a bag of ice per pass. Mm-hmm. So every time you're about to hit bio and ice, you're like, how many bags do I need? You have to like be honest with yourself for a minute. You're like, do I need finals bag of ice?
Well, then you get there and you fill it up, and then you'll do 2 or 3 passes, and you still got ice. So it's like, I got 13 bags of ice here, and I've gone through 1 this entire time. Like,
They usually start to try to scavenge it from
He's
the
in
people
quarter
that go
mile,
out.
so he's using a lot more ice.
True, yeah.
You're used to 8th mile.
Yeah, I was like, because I have ice box in
You're like,
mine,
I hope the concession stand's closing soon. They might sell me some half price ice.
And my car has a the intercooler isn't efficient enough. It's a 1,500 horsepower intercooler, but it's not an LS. It makes 70 pounds of boost. So it's
Trying
different.
to move a lot more air, too.
Yeah, it's different amount of pressure in there than, like your
lot more
car
heat.
making, what, 25 pounds of boost? What, 30?
32.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, yeah.
And you're
It's made
making
more than that.
2,000 horsepower at 32 pounds. Like, so the amount of condensed air sitting over those intercooler fins is just so high that I think it can't keep up.
Pressure and temperature are relative. So more pressure,
Yeah.
more temperature.
A lot of temperature.
Yeah.
IATs, they'll just start doing
Yep.
It's not very fun when you're at the top end and you're just like,
You're like, why did it slow down? And you're like, oh, well, the IAT went up and that table pulled all its timing. And then you're like, I need to turn that table off. The next pass, you nip a plug and you're like, I should turn that table back on.
yeah. And then I was talking to my tuner and I'm like, yeah, like look at the IATs. Like at the end of the pass, they start climbing. And he's like, yeah, well, those sensors are also really slow. And I'm like, great. So you just shifted this
Even
way.
worse.
Like, oh, so like 8th mile on, it was really hot. Awesome.
Get you a bigger intercooler. What intercooler is on it?
It's a no corners cut fab.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a big
they make
one.
really nice stuff.
It's really nice. Like it's nothing against them. Like I'm making a lot of power. I got a lot of boost going through it.
Yep.
Like,
You just need a bigger
and
one.
it is what it is.
Yep.
And a water pump can only do so much.
Yeah.
But some guys I see are not even running ice tanks and they'll just cool down the air to water in the pits and then
Really?
so they don't have the weight with them.
You could run a bigger water tank, but that's just more weight. So
Yeah, they just have a cooler, cool down the air to water and then
Yeah.
just go up for the pass. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Seems like a nice way to save an extra 20 pounds
Yeah.
of shit.
and a lot of money in
lines.
ice.
Yeah.
What are you using to cool it? Just ice water or?
That's what I use, but they do the same thing. They just use a cooler with
Ice
ice
water
and
in
a
it.
pump in it and all built in that you get to drag around with you.
But then you're just building temp the entire time, though. Like in burnout and everything, you're still.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mine doesn't turn on till 100% throttle anyways.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Maybe that's
yeah.
one of your problems.
We've tried it a few different ways.
Really not pre-chilling it.
Yeah, it doesn't really do very much. Kind of just melts the ice and then...
Then it's hot the whole pass.
Yeah.
Sounds like this is a no-win situation for you.
I might just put an air-to-air on it and just
Yeah.
call it a day.
yeah.
And then the radiator again.
I used to have a air to water, and then my buddy Wesley had an air to air, and I thought my air to water was a shit. And then he told me what his air to air temps were. I'm like, you mean you can have that low of intake temps and you don't have to put ice in your car? He's like, yep. I'm like, wow. I went wrong. Where did I go wrong?
Saves a bunch of money. I'm out here spending like $40 at Wawa every
Yeah.
weekend before the race. I'm like,
And if you have a wheelie problem, an air to air can help you out.
would it be heavier? I don't know. Mine's
Where's your
pretty
air to
heavy.
water at?
It's right in the nose.
Oh, I didn't know that. Never
Yeah,
mind.
see, like my water box and everything's in the back.
My water box is in the back.
Yeah.
And then I have long ass lines all the way to the front. I got like 60 pounds of shit.
Yeah. Well, I have a Vega too, so short wheelbase, and like my IT's like 86, 92 after a run and stuff like that.
You're still only running
but,
eighth mile,
eighth
yeah.
mile, but
Yeah.
yeah.
How did Tom Bailey do the other day testing?
I think he may. Most of the passes I saw, he had to pedal it. They weren't like horrible or like.
Yeah.
I think it just shook a few passes.
It's hard to get those tires down on a radial track.
Yeah, that's
there
my
was-
car's never spun, and I was the first car down the right lane, and it spun.
A lot of people weren't really.
Big tire on like. I mean, it was cold, and it was radial prep, so it was like a hockey puck.
Yeah.
But
That radial prep is tough on sick week cars with big tires.
normally my car does all right, just because my motor is literally like 10 inches behind the spindle. So like.
Is that why it did so well in War in the Woods?
Yeah.
It does so well out
It
there.
did all right for a second or two, and then
Was that the first pass?
Yeah.
That it
Oh, yeah.
crashed? Oh, okay. Well, it was moving on that pass.
yeah. I mean, it was on like a 470 pass.
Yeah, it was rolling.
It was gonna be fast.
It was a
but-
front runner, and then,
Yep.
Took a hard left.
yeah.
I hit. That's what I get for not knowing anything about big tires. You know, like
Yeah.
when they hit just think about how much more tire sidewall you have when you hit a bump in a big tire. If your car's not
Basketball.
set up, yeah, just like that's what I did. I hit it, and it just
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about that bump there and how it would just like unsettle the car so badly like
Yeah.
that.
that's actually my home track, Brown
is it?
County. Yeah, I made my first pass there when I was 14, and my dad's Chevelle.
That track seems so cool.
It is.
Like it's just, I don't want to say like no improvements or anything. It's just like this is what it is. This is the track you get.
Yeah,
you know?
it's
Well,
dangerous
the woods
because
is
you
really-
can go so fast.
War in the Woods you started, didn't kind
Well,
of.
I started War in the Woods, but Jeff and it was dead, but Jeff just used the name. So like I didn't start his event. I started War in the Woods, and he just used the name because I did a couple events there. And
he just liked the name, and he was like, we can do something cool.
Yeah, and everybody's all like, it's an awesome place to have events. I just, it was another thing that I've tried that I didn't like that became too much like a job was promoting events.
Promoting is not for the faint of heart.
No.
I feel bad for all promoters at all times.
Full-time job, and you barely ever get paid at all.
Again, there's no win to any of it.
You barely ever get paid, and you can actually lose a lot of money doing it if you don't do it right.
And if you want a drag race, being a promoter isn't actually your ticket to drag race more.
No. They actually look down on you. If you're promoting an event and racing in it, they talk shit about you.
Yeah, I've
then
seen.
If you win too,
it's even worse.
You might as well lose first round if you promote and just make you look better.
Like Justin and Chase always try to race streetcar takeovers, and it seems like such a mess. Trying to run, hurting people alone is tough enough. Trying to like get people together, because I do the no time races here, and we do chip draw every round.
Yep.
You got to set up a text chain and a message chain, and you got to go over the intercom, and then you got to drive through the pits. And you still have somebody pissed off that they missed the driver's meeting, even though you know they saw all the messages.
I'm like, Troy, just send out like a random ladder. Just use like a random ladder generator, and then just send it from there.
It's hard.
I'll trust it.
Someone's still going to complain about that, too.
Or they're going to say it's not fun or whatever.
That's not what we got here for. That's not real, no prep. Like,
I wanted to call out my friend. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's... You can never make anybody.
There's no win on that.
Yeah, no.
Walking up in between every round, though, is frustrating.
Yeah. It used to be one of those things where, like, I just thought it was cool to be there and be in a chip draw. I felt it made me feel included. Now it's like, this is just a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Even, like, sick week sometimes gets tough with the downtime, and there's nothing they can do about it. And everybody come next Monday is going to be on there complaining about something. Yep. Because Dragon Drives, I don't know what it is, but they bring out like peak complaints.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know how Matt Frost has done it so long, because he seems to get the brunt of everything.
He's good at putting people in their place.
Well, then we just talked about promoters. I mean, that's one race. Now you're doing, 4 races on top of driving, on top of having
5 tracks.
Well, and then quadruple the amount of people that's there. I mean, God,
that's why it takes a fleet of people. Yeah, I don't envy that at all.
No.
The crazy thing is like, and I've been thinking about this the whole time we've been talking, like, when my dad was racing, I was a freshman in high school, whatever. It was like 08, 09. And that's when, like, racing was dead. It was like the last year of Super Chevy. I remember Super Chevy used to be like it was bigger than the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis. Yeah. And we went to Super Chevy, and there was like 10 people there. And it was like, that's when gas prices went up to like $4 a gallon.
Yeah, housing crisis, global financial crisis,
Racing was dead.
First thing to go is cars.
Yep.
First thing people stop spending money on.
I actually had a fear that I was never going to get to race. And like, me and my dad used to talk like, 1 year, we're going to save up a lot of money, and we'll probably save up for a few years, but we're going to go racing during the winter time. Like, I used to think you had to be rich to do that.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I'm not rich by any means, but now, like, we race year-round. And we
go
to sick week, and we're racing for 2 weeks. And racing now is, like, it's not just alive and well. Like you said, we're in the boom. Like, it's freaking...
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it started kind of with Street Outlaws. Like, they really they opened a lot of people's eyes and got them back into racing. And then, like, Streetcar Takeover and, like, all that stuff.
Yeah, I think... Street Outlaws doesn't really get enough credit. It actually just gets made fun of, but I think it does deserve some.
Dude, Big Chief was my childhood idol. Like, Big Chief and Jesse James are like my childhood idols.
Yeah.
And I've actually got to meet Big Chief organically and like become his friend, which is like the craziest thing ever. And I still talk to him all the time, or I used to. We don't talk much since I've moved, but man, it's like people don't realize how much they inspire somebody off of what they've done. Like, my whole life is based around cars now because of watching Street Outlaws, like Pinks.
You're helping Kai Kelly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't even think about that stuff anymore.
Yeah, Murder Nova's going to be out there racing that blue car.
Yep.
Not huge on the color, but it it is what it is.
I don't like stripes on the roof.
That blue is just like a couple shades too light for a Camaro, I think. If it was like a little bit darker.
Yeah, it needs to be more like, what do they call it? Oceanic or Atlantic blue or something like that. I can't remember what they call it.
Because there's plenty of blue Camaros like that are awesome, you know, like you look at Mark Mickey's.
Yeah.
And it's got more of
metallic.
a shine to it.
Yeah, it's more metallic. His is really gloss.
And not to hate on it, I mean, it's just a pro mod. They paint them
Yeah.
every weekend anyways, it seems like.
Yep.
But, you know, it's a badass car. It'll be cool to see that thing run, and hopefully they get it figured out, because I like to see more twin turbo. Is that one? Yeah, that one's twin turbo, right?
There's a lot of I mean, a lot of the cars went screw, and now I think turbo's making a comeback. And that's what I was talking to Kai, and he's like, if you were building a new pro mod, I would go twin turbo, because Mark Mickey's got that thing figured out. He's like, he went so fast compared to these other people, and like, they're just lucky he messed up staging one pass, because like he had it covered. They don't limit.
He's had it covered
right
a few times,
Yeah.
and you know, as racing does.
Yeah, that's racing. That's the beauty of racing. But like, you know, with twin 88s, you can make 5,000 horsepower. You're limited with like a C rotor or whatever. I don't know how much they can make, but
He's got like 15 mile an hour on the field. That's stupid.
crazy. Yeah.
Like that thing must feel like a rocket ship once you get into high gear. Once it locks up in high gear like that, where it's
I
just
can't even
starts
imagine.
rolling.
Yeah. One day I would like to feel that kind of power.
Yeah. Well, Victor just built that twin turbo pro mod too. That purple one that's about to be rolling out.
Who's
Victor
that?
That owns Bradenton.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he built a twin turbo pro mod.
Huh.
It's just got finished. I think Quartermax built it, I want to say.
Okay.
So more.
Pro mod's the next thing that's on the come up.
Yeah.
All the street out, the MPK guys, they have all these steel roof and quarter cars, and now they got to like, where do we go from here?
Yeah, they kind of fit in X275 a little bit of them, but they also might be a little
Combos.
top heavy for X275. I think people don't realize just that little bit of extra steel roof changes the car's weight so much.
They're down to like, I was talking to somebody that runs a pro mod, and they were talking about another team. They're down to like cutting like the screws that go through the Lexan into the window frame. They're cutting the backs of the bolts off flush to save ounces. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's hard for me to believe that it makes that big of a difference, but maybe it does, man. I don't know.
I just messed up, and when we were talking to Kai, he's like, "Well, I wanted to get somebody lighter in there," and I was like, "Is that really like what extra maybe 80 pounds that Alex weighs less? Like really?" And he's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
all
dummy.
right, sorry, like, sorry, dude. Like,
80
my fault."
pounds is a lot. I mean, I'm
Sorry,
talking about
dude.
ounces.
80 pounds is big, yeah. If you could put like that, you know, there's plenty of people that put some light drivers in there all the
Jockey.
time.
Yeah, I was saying it's like a jockey, yeah. But
pretty
that's
cool.
he just looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, oh, okay, sorry, dude, like my fault. Like, didn't even press a nerve here.
That's a,
But if it's a weight anyways, I mean, Kai's car, I don't think it can get light enough to truly make weight. I think
Yeah.
it's not crazy.
Pro
It's not like
Mod
200
series-
pounds overweight, but it's like a couple.
yeah.
you
At
know.
this Pro Mod series he can, but if he ran, I know he posted about Duck's race.
Yeah.
It is like 200 pounds over or something like that. Like
That's tough.
Duck's minimum weight's like 24 something or whatever. Like his car can only be maybe, I don't know if it's 26 or whatever.
Yeah, something like that where he doesn't meet weight,
Yeah.
even if he
Couldn't.
wanted to.
Yeah.
He can't take enough out. And then once you talk about, okay, like, even if he could make weight, it's like, okay, but then I have to add it to the nose anyways or something. It's like, okay, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
Talking about weight, have you ever heard what a land speed car weighs?
No, I actually wanted to talk to you about salt flat stuff.
Oh, cool. I don't know much about it. I've just watched Alex do a bunch of badass stuff, and I'm like dying to get out there and try it. So now I'm
It looks like a long time of just,
yeah.
and you're just like, okay, am I going straight? I think so.
It's like you can make a little, from what I've heard, you can make a little adjustment, and you're like 100 foot that way. But you
Yeah.
have like the course is really, really wide. So, I mean,
But that's what makes it tough. Like, there's no wall to see, or like the mountain's so far that it's like, well, I don't know if I'm going straight.
Yeah, they say like pick a peak and like aim towards that peak, because that's all you can do is look straight.
Try to hit that mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
That
so
seems cool.
it's unlike anything else. It's a lot like radial racing. It's a lot of hurry up and wait, like just sit in the lanes. But both times we've been there, there's been some rain to where they weren't running, because they'll have like 4 or 5 courses going at once, and that's when people get a lot of runs in. Both times we've been there, the first time we went, they only had 1 course. Second time, they had 2 courses. Second time was a lot better than the
And
first.
you were at Bonneville, right?
Yep, Bonneville Speed Week.
Yeah, the actual cool one.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Monroe.
Yeah, because there's Bonneville, but then there's what, El Diablo or El
Mirage.
El Mirage,
Yep.
which is dirt.
Oh yeah,
Not as cool.
Not as cool.
wanna
I've
be
been
on the
there.
salt.
I went there with Alex in her TV show one time, and it's stupid hot. And it's crazy because that's actually like a recreational park. So you got like hang gliders running around, people riding their dirt bikes, like riding wheelies past you. It's crazy. I guess they shut it down for the
like
actual
a
event.
run, yeah.
But
So you were at the Salt Flats. How much do they weigh? What's
like
a-
6,000.
Huh.
Yeah. Like weight doesn't matter there.
Yeah.
You actually want it
It
to
does
weigh that
when
much.
you crash. If you
don't-
crash.
Well, that's what you don't crash. You spin. If you're lucky, and that's why you make it weigh 6,000 pounds.
So
So
that
it
is
doesn't
just
take
like-
flight. You want it as low from, and this is just me talking of what I've heard. I've never built a Salt Flats car. I know I'm just purely talking of what people have told me.
Well, nobody's built one
Yeah.
in the last 20 years anyway.
I know. That's why. So the guy, I got one for free. Our buddy Sean that originally let Alex drive a car that he just bought. He had this car, and it looks a lot like Uncle Sam, and I was trying to get him to sell it to me, and he finally called. He's like, I don't want to deal with trying to sell this to people. You know, like, you can have a lot of money in those cars, and you can't resell them because the only thing you can do is Salt Flats, like, once a year, or El Mirage, or whatever. So, like, the resale value on those is even worse than a drag car. But, so he just called me. He's like, you can just have it if you can come get it out of my way. But, yes.
So it's the only salt flat car in Arkansas now.
So Arkansas is Arkansas Mile. There's actually a lot of land speed stuff out there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you can actually go use it on a
I can
on a
go
mile.
test. Yeah, I can go test it or what have you. And like, it's got a G-Force 5-speed in it. It's gonna have 10 soldiers. Did you ever see their white SN95 Mustang? It was their shop car.
Yeah.
It went like 440s on a 26-inch radial.
Yep.
I got that motor that's going in. It's a D-stroke 6-liter Holley EFI. It's got a Force Performance 98 millimeter turbo that we're gonna put on it, and I'm going to have a huge, like, 30-gallon ice tank for my air to water.
You're just going to, like, run it into the passenger seat and, like,
Yeah, it's already got a
take
big
up
tank
the whole
there.
passenger side.
Yep. And then I got a...
I guess when weight doesn't matter, you just put as much
No.
ice as possible.
Yep. And
biggest water box, biggest fuel cell you can get.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what you want. You want the weight low and a lot of it. So that way, if you do spin out, you just flat spin. You don't tumble or anything like that. But
the
it's...
wheels weighted or something. But
No, the wheels are just really skinny. It's like driving through snow, you know. You don't want a big bubble tire. You want
Yeah.
a skinny tire to cut through it, and you're not really getting after it. So traction out there, it's like driving in snow almost, like, especially if it's rained out there. It's very slushy.
Well, I've had Jay Meager on talking about this stuff, too, a little bit.
He's
'cause-
smart.
And
He's
he's
super
done
cool.
some passes.
He's been
got,
300.
Yeah, he's got the
Yeah.
300 hat on.
Oh, yeah,
he
he's
had
a
it
bad
on. I was
dude.
like,
Yep.
all right, Jay, with a 2J.
When I talk to him, I feel really dumb. And he doesn't make you feel dumb. He just talks to you, and I'm like, wow, that makes total sense. How did I not think
Yeah,
of
I'm
it like that?
darn.
Yeah, yeah. And he's been super nice to me. I've seen him at like PRI and seen him at Bonneville, and he's like, listen, I'm really excited for you. If you need anything, let me know. If you have questions, he's like, I can help you with like not blowing the motor up, you know, because like 6 miles is way different than a quarter mile, and how, you know, to be strategic about cooling systems and like air and stuff like that. And like somebody told me, they said, you don't even have to run a really big radiator up front, which a lot of people do because you get so much air through it. They said, put the radiator, a small radiator, inside your ice tank and run your water through that, and it'll stay cool the whole run. Never get over 200. And I'm like, wow. I was trying to cram 2 little radiators up front, and I'm just going to do that now. But that's...
So I had I feel like this would be something that would make sense almost in that. I had a buddy that instead of making an air to water intercooler deal, he took a regular intercooler and built a box around it and put a lid on it. So
Just set ice
it's
in
literally just an air to air, and then
Yeah.
he just pours bags of ice over it and has a drain on the bottom.
I mean, why not?
I was like, oh, it makes sense. There's no pump, nothing like that. You just ice it and then,
drain it.
yeah.
It literally melts it. I mean, I don't know why that wouldn't work.
It
What did
seems
it-
like
was
it
it a
makes
drag
more
car?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I
only
like
an
that.
8th mile no time car.
That's
trying to be
what-
as simple as possible.
Probably did he push it up to the lanes?
He probably, yeah, he did. It was a pretty fast car.
Yeah.
It was probably like a 430 Fox 440s.
That's one of the reasons I love the racing industry is the inventions, like the creativity you see from people. And that's the other reason why I really want to go to Bonneville. You go to Bonneville, you go to this place called the Black and White. It's in a trailer park. and it is a double wide that's been added onto, and it's a bar. And anybody you see in there is everybody. Like, you can just go have a beer, have a drink, whatever, and next thing you know, you're talking to Wayne Jessel or like people like that. And like stuff that I didn't know, like Jessel, was developed for them going land speed racing, and now every other form of motorsport has something Jessel somewhere, you know.
Well, if it works for 6 miles, I'm sure it'll work for a quarter mile.
And I never knew how many stuff was started on the salt flats that is now like a key part of so much of just even drag racing. I love talking to people out there, like, and like this might sound bad, but it's hard to say. Like, I'm not judging anybody, but you go to a backtrack race, which I love backtrack racing. I love those people. Like, I still backtrack race, but 9 out of 10 people there normally, or even sick week, 9 out of 10 people are normally a consumer. You know, like they're buying motion. I buy motion racework stuff. They're a consumer. You go to Bonneville, normally 9 out of 10 people are an innovator. Like, they've designed something, they've invented something that nobody else even knows about, and half the time people don't even have social media, or it's somebody like Jessel or something that was out there in the beginning that has invented something that is now used in the motorsports. And it's like, to be out there and be able to just be around that and like associate, just see those people and associate with them. It's like you can learn so much. Like Jay, you talk to Jay. I mean, if you don't learn something from Jay,
you didn't ask him the right questions.
You're not even listening. You know, like he could talk for 5 minutes and I could learn 10 things.
I know. I was like, okay, how do I just hit record and not talk and just like let him go? Trying to just like nudge him to keep him talking, because it's just an endless stream of like, okay, cool, that's amazing. Like, I'm trying to write this down.
Yeah, I want to record this so I can listen back to it. I don't even want to talk right now because I need to retain as much as possible.
Tell me everything.
It seems like the Salt Flats has a really high barrier of entry. That's probably what does it. That's probably what keeps out, like, you know, people like me. I don't know how to just go start racing on a salt flat. You have to like get in with someone. Yeah,
well, that's what I thought too. And, like, yes, it is very hard to go get a record. Like, it's a crap ton of work. There's a lot of people that spend a lot of time going that fast. But also, like, people think of going 200. Going 200 is easy out there. Like, it takes 800 horsepower, something very minuscule to go 200 out there. Now to go 250. My car's
been 176 in the quarter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, given enough time, even without a launch, like,
you're going to go 200.
You're going to go 200. It's got the gear for it.
It takes a lot more to go 250, but there's a lot of records out there that are 220, 230. Like, the one that I'm going to try to go for is 250, and I know 250 is going to be hard. But after seeing, like, the car that we put together at our old shop, there's a guy. He's got a twin-turbo big block Chevy, twin 88s, on wastegate, 2 pounds of boost. Mm-hmm. It goes like 212. Oh, wow. So, like, basically, NA, this thing will go 212. And it's like, it can make quadruple what it's making now. But I still don't even know if that'll get him to 250. Like, he's got to go 280 if he can get the air. It's all aerodynamics at that point, because whatever the coefficient is to get there, you have to make X amount of power to get there. And if whatever that's a multiplier, so the less it is, the better.
Time in the wind tunnel, I learned how crazy
I've never been in the wind tunnel. I've always wanted to go. I know
it's crazy, the amount that they can tell you, and they can get the data from like 50 miles an hour wind, but then they just extrapolate it out, whatever, to like 200, 300, so they can tell you how bad it's gonna get.
It's like a multiplier too.
Yeah, they're like, once you hit 200, like, this thing's just gonna start going backwards. Basically, like, it's just like, you ever see like the wind when a seagull's just flying, but it's not going anywhere?
You are a parachute at that point.
Exactly. So that stuff's really cool to see, and the little bits of aero, you know, like even NASCAR, there's like little like, if we put this on here at 200, it changes the whole car's aero.
Well, I was just watching Steve Morris on the wagon.
Oh, the wicker that he's got.
Yeah, the wicker.
I forget what he called it.
Entire hood. God, what did he call it?
No, he's talking about the roof. The whole roof is the wing, and then he just had to add a wicker to the
And that's
back.
what he said. He's like, the car wouldn't go over 200, and he's like, now we've been 220 with this. Just, I mean, half-inch freaking stripping across the roof. Like,
It's not even about the air. I mean, it is about the air hitting the front of the car, but it's also about what's going off the back of it. And that is another thing I know nothing about. I've never, like I said, I've never been to the wind tunnel, and I don't know anything about it, but it's something I really want to learn. That's why I'm here this weekend, because I want to learn about screw blowers and Hemis and stuff like that, and I don't have one. Like, I can't afford one, so this is how I learn. I'm eager to learn about going really fast.
Not much as cool as a screw blower going down the track. Really.
Whacking it. We were there when they fired up Jang Lang earlier. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
There's not much as cool as that.
No.
I was kind of messing with Garrett. I was like, man, the turbo deal is cool, but
Yeah.
it's that
a lot cooler with a screw blower on there.
the pure just meanness of it.
Yep.
Like, there's just nothing like it. It makes your whole body.
It's just violence. Like it's
pure
just like
violence.
packaged violence that just
You
the
just-
second you hear it,
No,
because
ready.
it's tame, and then it's funny. Like, we're turbo guys, so you gotta do like a whole thing. You're on the popper, you're bumping in, but then those things, like a turbo car bumps in, and then it's like, then they light, and it's like, whoa,
Shakes your chest.
okay.
I got the chance, and I've been driving a ProCharge Nova. It's a black, like 64 Nova, big zoomies, big block. It's been low floors, badass car. And it's like, it's so easy to, I mean, those cars to me, it's so much less intricate than a turbo car, because I'm like, I just turn this ignition on, then I just go press this button and floor it. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Turbo car, you're like, I got to make sure I leave on this RPM and this boost and blah, blah, blah. And it's like the supercharger stuff, I never thought I would enjoy it. It's just like the big tires, I've been small tire turbo. Now I'm like, I'm trying small tire screw blower and big tire turbo. And like, I have found out I am a fan of speed, just mainly drag racing, G-forces,
Like
and Alex.
mile an hour.
No, like 60 foot.
Yeah, okay.
That's why, like, my car, I'm so proud of my car. Like, yeah, I'm slow as shit. And, like, me and Alex raced in Chicago, and she blew by me like I was sitting still. Like, I was embarrassed. And she's like, I barely got you. I'm like, no. In the car world, like, if my friends saw this video of you going by me this fast, I would never get my man guard back.
But having somebody come around you is tough. Like,
yeah, I was going 194, and she had 18 mile an hour on me.
oh wow. Yeah, that's healthy.
Really fast when you're already going that fast.
Yeah.
But the car is so different too. You just watch that person, you just like, there's nothing you can do in the car. You're just screaming to yourself.
I got my foot through the floor.
And her car is like, it's like a big car. Like, it's like a big bodied car. Like,
Yeah, it's
not
a
like
shoebox Chevy with like factory. It's all factory
Steel roof,
dimensions.
steel
It's not
quarter.
raked. It's not stretched. Nothing.
Like, your car like sits low. It looks
Oh yeah,
low.
my
like
car's
it's
4 inches
small.
extended. It's already got the drag coefficient of like a freaking Arrow from the factory. So
Yeah, and that thing's like big. It's a big vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It's awesome. It's one of the coolest cars you'll see on Sick Week.
yeah, she's been 218 in it too.
Oh shoot, that's moving. And the big block in it's fairly simple too, right?
Yeah, I mean it's conventional heads, conventional block. Like there's nothing. Dennis is great at building engines. But the parts that he uses, that's one of his, like, he's really proud of that. Like, they're going out there competing with the SMXs.
Yeah.
And they have an iron block, big block. He calls it the boomer motor.
Yeah, I was about to say they calls it the boomer motor.
Well, I was just talking to my buddy Brad Vasco about yesterday. We were like, man, like, I think a lot of people don't realize you can build like a simple big block for as cheaper than some of these LSs and make more power
That's where I'm at
and
now.
simpler.
Yeah. I actually did the math. I'm like, I can build, if I built a cast aluminum big block, my car would weigh the same. A cast aluminum big block weighs the same as a Dart SHP Pro, which is what I have. It's like, I can make double the horsepower. What am I doing wrong here?
And not break half the block out the side and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's,
I don't have to wring its neck.
yeah.
It's like, why did nobody tell me about
I know.
these new big blocks?
I know.
Now? This new age technology.
Gosh, the internet's so wrong.
Yeah.
But it is like, it's weird because, the last 10 years, all I heard was LS. And then seems like all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, there's actually a really cheap,
There's all these
easy
big blocks.
option.
Yeah.
You can get like an RV motor.
Funny thing is, I went big block. I went from LS, I went single turbo LS in my Malibu, and I went twin turbo big block, but I did not know enough, and I blew it up twice. And it was a good big block. It was a Dart big block. Dart, my dad gave it to me. He ended up selling his car because I stole his motor out of it, and I feel bad for him. but that's okay.
Sorry, this guy Jimmy Dale texted me because he's on his way down.
Oh yeah, old Tom Gunner.
Yeah, trying to get me to do nitrous stuff.
I had nitrous on Uncle Sam.
We didn't spray it because we didn't think we could afford the rebuild if we did.
Yeah, that's kind of the tough part about nitrous is it does break parts. And as Jason said, it's the sexiest way to go fast. And bullhorns are cool.
Yeah, they are.
But you also have to get to that level of bullhorn is a high level nitrous.
Yeah, I mean they also
Most people
have,
are thinking like 200 shot.
Yeah, they've got big bore space motor and all this other stuff. It's like, yeah, billet Hemis are cool too, like you said.
Yeah.
Pro lines are
Yeah.
cool too.
Yeah, it's like, 780 cubic inch big block's pretty cool.
If we're going to do the 900s or...
Freaking... And that car, I mean, everything's cool about that car. Charlie Brown.
Does 40 pounds of flour make a big biscuit? That was my favorite saying in the world.
Yeah, it's kind of like the obvious, But then when you talk again, like about the simple big blocks, it's not the obvious. For most people, they think you need some LS or like a junkyard LS. But I knew Rick Prospero with that green RX-7. That was like an RV motor.
Yeah, and he ran it years. A ladder bar car.
Yeah.
I think it was leaf spring. Leaf spring maybe with ladder bars. It was the weirdest setup in an RX-7 ever with the big block, like you saying, with like S400s. They weren't like Pro Mod 88s or anything. They were like S400s, and he went 6s back before anybody. Like, I mean,
with like a Turbo 400 he built himself, and like him and his son just ran it, and it was on I think it was on a Big Stuff.
I didn't even know that. Oh my gosh.
I think at one time it
Old
was
Stuff
on a Big
3?
Stuff, yeah. And they're just making it work. They're like, yeah, well, when you make 10,000 hits down the track with the same combo, you figure it out.
Yep. So I talked to, it was David Varner actually. Mm-hmm. I was talking to him one time, and he says, I've consistently, it's back when his car hasn't been together for a year or two now. I don't know.
Yeah, 10,
it was maybe
10 or so.
It was like a year or two ago, but he was like, this year, I didn't change turbos. I didn't change converters. I didn't change anything. All I did was keep making consistent hits and changing giving the car what it wanted. And he said, I've now been consistently faster this year just by reading the car and giving it what it wants than I've ever gained by putting a bigger turbo in it or a different converter or different shocks or like anything like that.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people, and I'm still learning that, it's what you have to do.
It's just, put the car together and keep making passes and learn it.
Well, I tell people it's like you're not reinventing the wheel. You just have to literally figure out what the car wants. Because like most setups, I mean, these guys with Fox bodies, it's a Fox body in the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like
put it at the same ride height.
Yeah, like a lot of people with us, you got an LS Fox body. So does everybody else. You got nothing special. You're not reinventing the wheel. Just sort it out. And like the people that go fast, because they're racing the same thing, the same car, the same setup for years.
Look at anybody.
Hundreds of passes, thousands of passes.
Anybody that's successful has 10,000 passes, like Beaterbomb. I mean, I know he changes his car a lot, but
he
he's
takes
got
the
so much data,
and changes off the data, not off of the guess or what you heard some guy in the pit next to you say.
Mm-hmm.
Casey Max, he'll change his entire setup, and then still, I mean...
But he's racing the same car over and over again.
Same
chassis,
same... Yeah, I mean, it's...
Well, you hear people all the time. One of the things that I get frustrated about is people that think they need a custom cam for their LS or a custom converter that nobody's ever heard of before. And it's like, you're trying to go 5.0s. Like, what are we talking about here? You're not trying to go 399s on a stock block and you need like all this crazy stuff. Like, you're a very repeatable combo.
Yeah.
Keep it simple because it's
like I say, you guys are not reinventing the
it's
wheel.
Like the Harbor Freight, anybody can put together a combo now that can go high 8s, low 9s. Like
we got guys out there with no prep cars that have Proline motors in them now. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, that Bones car, he put a Proline motor in that thing.
Well, it's still just a big block.
Well, we were just talking about Frankenstein the other day. That car that they run, that thing's like...
It's an old drag... I mean, it's Mark... not Mark... what's the dude's name? Not Keith Berry. It might be Keith Berry's old... Not Keith.
I know whose car it is. I can't think of it. But that car's like...
Yeah.
That thing's as bad as can be.
Yeah, it's got... I think it built a small block or something. I don't know that much about it. I know it's fast. Super fast.
And it gets down everywhere it goes.
Oh, yeah.
anytime I've seen it go down the track, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean those dudes
That
are
was like
smart.
dirt.
They're fast. They've been fast forever. You know, they've never been slow. So
You want to be competitive.
So one thing I do need to say to call out my boy David Varner a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
His car started to get progressively faster when he let my boy Alpha, who tunes my car,
oh yeah.
on the keyboard a little bit.
Hey, shameless plug.
And then
shameless plug.
we were at World Cup, and Alpha and John Rogers were talking a little bit. Alpha tickled the keys a little bit, and then it went the fastest pass it's ever done.
Really?
And I was like, huh. Not to say,
Yeah.
I did anything here, but it's great
You're
to see
welcome.
my boy Alpha out here tuning
Yep.
on these cars, and it's just cool to see. He just like cleaned up a couple things here
Yep.
and there, and he was like, we're not changing a whole lot. Like going into like your second round here, we're not.
What if he saw the car? I mean, he might have saw something that the car wanted. You give the car what it wants. Sometimes it takes a fresh set of eyes too, man. Like, I can't tell you how many times I look at something and I don't see it, and somebody walks over that I would never even think would know this, and they're like, "Well, what about that?" I'm like, "How did I not see that?"
Yeah.
It's just what it takes.
And
But
if it's
not taking anything away from him though. I'm
no,
sure
of
he's
course.
super
I mean,
smart.
it takes another person or somebody like Alpha who's seen, I don't know, probably 10,000 cars at this point too.
All the setups.
He's seen any issue you can imagine and any stupid thing or mistake or whatever. Even like when you're talking like Holly stuff.
Yeah.
I remember one sick week we're all sitting around and watching Vanderhoof, give some pointers to people, and I'm like, oh, never even heard of that before. Mm-hmm. And
They've run into these problems.
He basically invented Hollies.
Yeah. I like talking to the guys. Like I watched Stevie Fast, one of the Stevie Fast videos a long time ago, and he said all drag racing is in between rounds is problem solving. You find X amount of problems and you do what you can to try to solve them for the next round. And it's like those are the guys that have been seeing all these problems for so long. They normally have an answer when you say, "Hey, this is the problem."
Yeah.
They've seen it before, and it's
They've
like
dealt with it themselves.
they've got that whole database of all the shit that I have no idea how it works.
Yeah, you just have to break enough shit to kind of figure it out. And then you look at I got to watch Clay tear down their top fuel car after that. And no matter if it's running perfect or not, the sleeves are coming out, the pistons are coming out. It's like the blower's coming off. It's like, wait, that was a perfect pass. Why are you taking this all apart?
That's what I'm learning too about like the blown Hemi stuff. They're like, yeah, every 20 rods you got to put, or 20 passes you put rods in it, and every 100 you put a crank in. I'm like, even if they're good, they're like, yep,
Yeah.
that's expensive.
There's a decent secondhand market for some of that too, because say somebody like you is like, oh well, I'm going to build a similar combo, but I'll make half the power.
Yep.
Which is still a lot of
Yeah,
power.
it's still 2,000 horsepower or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, well, that crank could probably do pretty well for me.
Yep. It's crazy. Something else I never knew, and I'll get the numbers wrong, but like just thinking of the whole aftermarket automotive world, because you're obviously very deep into it and the social media side of it. And I've been seeing all the pointers you give on YouTube, like thumbnails and what to say in your video and all that. So that's really cool. And I appreciate that because
Always happy to help.
but then that was off track also. But Alex went to Washington D.C. 6 months back or whatever to lobby for I think it was against RPM and the Clean Air Act, and like there's a couple other things they're trying to get passed that basically nobody knows about. They're trying to ruin what we love, but
As they do.
yeah, like my grandma and like a lot of my family, they're always like, "How do you get paid? Like how do you make a living with race cars? How do you do that? Like they're very traditional minded people, great people, love them to death. They're my family, and I'm just always been like, oh, we're in the boom, like I don't know how long it'll last, whatever. But then she goes there and she comes back. She's like, did you know that aftermarket automotive industry, not counting OEM, just the aftermarket automotive industry is like this? It's the 7th largest industry in America right now.
I believe that.
It's above the liquor and wine. It's not above beer. Beer's like top, and like there's some other stuff that I couldn't believe, like some transport industries. And I'm like, how is the aftermarket like?
Well, if you look at wheels alone,
Yeah,
that's probably like the 8th in its own.
I was talking to the guy. He works at Pro Charger. His
it
name's
Eric?
Kyle or Kevin. He's SEMA, like one of the SEMA board director of the board or something like that. And he told me this number, and I think it's $47 billion a year is what the aftermarket automotive industry is. We could Google it real quick, and that would tell you for sure. But that blew my mind.
Yeah, SEMA sends out those emails. I've read through them a few times. I can't ever remember the numbers, mostly because I'm mentally retarded. But
same. So you can say that now.
Yeah, it's legal on Facebook at least.
Me and not me. I got it from Dennis and his friend Ben. They're like, "Hey, Trump's signing an executive order. You can say that now."
We're safe now.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, we're talking cars. You know, it's a car term.
Yeah.
There's a lot of car terms that you can now say again, thankfully.
Yeah. But
There's
tough
a lot
out here.
Trans got me all the time. And I'm like, talking about my transmission. I mean, that's
we're clean. We're clear on Facebook now. But
YouTube might still be, they're
Iffy,
figuring it out.
yeah.
The CEO was standing up there with Trump when he got
Of
inaugurated,
YouTube?
So maybe
Really?
of Google. So
okay,
maybe it'll happen.
very nice.
Maybe we'll all get the safe go by. So the industry, yeah, it is huge, and they are also still trampling on it constantly.
Yeah.
I was just on a tirade the last 3 days on TikTok about fighting people about truck emissions.
Really?
So I've been deep into it, and why deletes are all a thing, and all the hecticness around that, because you have what is that? That's not an L5P that you got, right? Is that the previous gen?
I don't know. That is actually my sponsor's truck. It's not even mine. That's my sugar daddy's truck. I got an old. I think my old one's an LLY or LML is what my old. I got a 08 or 09.
Okay, but my L5P. You talk to people like Corey, who has been fighting the EPA for so long. He explained to all these people, hey, these emission systems will only last 150,000 miles before they just fail. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's fine. We're okay with that. It's like,
Are you going to cover the warranty? Or who
how are
pays
you
for
okay
that?
with that?
Yeah.
These trucks should go 1,000,000 miles.
So do you know what it takes to replace that emission system? Do you know all of the power that it takes to produce those parts and cast all the metal or the foundries, all that stuff to replace those broken parts? How much more emissions does that produce than just not having it in the first place?
And GM's like, well, the warranty's only 100,000 miles, so perfect. That's when it should fail.
That's just that is the definition of red tape and bullshit that I just.
It's so frustrating, and people are always delete it, but it's it costs thousands just to get rid of it.
Yep.
It's
No matter what,
ways.
you're screwed, and then your warranty's gone, and then the shops get in trouble for doing it, and it's just.
I'd love to hear from Alex how that went in DC, because from 10 years ago, Cooper would have been like, "Oh wow, so cool! There's stuff happening." Now, current Cooper's nothing's happening.
Yeah, I don't
It's just
believe
all
that
for
they're even
show.
doing anything. Yeah, but so they did get it.
They got
repealed or something. I don't know politic terminology. I'm not learned.
correct.
Yeah, I'm not politically correct.
They didn't bring you out to DC.
And no, and I mean honestly, I am not informed enough. And that's I'll take full responsibility for that. I don't take enough interest in to even have an opinion. Really, I am selfishly so involved in trying to grow my own stuff that I haven't paid enough attention to that. But Alex is really helped.
As you should be, because there's no money in you.
Yeah.
You can't pay your bills by
–
reading the bill that just came through Congress.
Yep.
It's a waste of energy.
But it's scary though, because I'm putting all my time and effort into this something that they could just shut down also. So it's just I think it's one of those double-edged swords where I should be a little more aware of it, and having people go out there like Alex, and she actually thought it was going to be total shaking hands, taking pictures, not actually doing anything. But she actually did talk to some of the people, and she could tell you obviously way better than I could. And they actually talked to her about the stuff and went over whatever and wanted to set up more meetings. And I don't know how all that went, but she was really she was not even real, she wanted to do it. She had very low expectations, and she was actually super happy when she got home. So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I'd like to see things actually happen, but I always distrust things actually happening.
It's one time going out there, and then it goes into the government, so it's definitely got a lot of fish nets that could just fall right through. Yeah.
It's this high, and they're just yep.
Yeah.
Request added.
Yeah. Put that in the suggestion box over there.
Yeah, exactly. We'll spend some money on that problem.
Yeah. To touch base on SEMA, We haven't started on this route, but I was talking with one of the SEMA rep. Her name's Lisa. She's awesome. We were talking about me working with her a little bit on this thing. I don't know if you've heard of SEMA Garage or the Tech Library, Tech Transfer.
I've heard of the garage where they help on getting. Isn't that where they help on getting things passed through emissions?
So they can help you get like your emissions
parts
approval and
yeah.
stuff like that. And SEMA Garage also, there's one in LA and there's one in Detroit where they can scan your car. Like you could pay like a shop rate and you come in, scan your car. They've got like super fancy 3D scanners, printers, all of that. And Tech Transfer also has like, they work with OEM manufacturers. So like they have scans, 3D files of like factory vehicles. So say I didn't end up getting in, but I was trying to, and when I helped with the SEMA car that Dennis built for Iski, they put a Godzilla motor in it. And they wanted to make cast valve covers that look like Ed Iskandarian's original valve covers he cast. Mm-hmm. So like I wanted to get a 3D model of the Godzilla, which you can. I didn't end up getting it, but it's something like that. Like say, like me now, I'm designing the 4-link for the S10. I had to buy an S10, scan it, just to have a junk S10 sitting in my shop. But you could, and this is a shameless plug, and I'm not even working with them yet. But like I'm really excited about this because this goes back to like the hobbyist becoming somebody that can produce something in the garage. You can pay this amount for a year to get X amount of downloads, this amount. Like there's certain tiers you can buy, and it allows you a certain amount of downloads.
Yeah.
And you can say you wanted to design a bumper for a Jeep Gladiator or something. You can
get their CAD files, and then you can.
Yeah. You have no investment. Your investment to get the file, but you have no overhead of a shop, scanning tools, anything like that. Like that to me is worth its weight, like more than its weight in gold. It's worth $1 million because if you can think of something, to help with the emissions on a L5P, you can get their CAD file, design it, and start producing it, and never do anything in your own shop like that. That's the world we live in now.
Somebody
That's the
in an
technology.
office building somewhere could be designing parts for a car that never even saw the car.
Exactly.
Mostly, it'll probably be in India, but they'll be designing the parts for the car.
At least if I design it, it'll be being made here. But
well, you know where all the holes are and everything, which is nice because that's probably half the pain. Is like, okay, well now I have to measure all the holes.
Moving something an 1/8 inch over takes another 25 hours of 3D printing or something like that. Like. That's the one thing I will say. I found my 3D scanner on Marketplace for $200, and I scanned that S10 frame, and like I can see all the factory rivets. So I designed all my brackets around the factory rivets. So then you cut your rivets out, and my brackets bolt right in those exact holes, and it's like they lined up perfect.
Yeah,
that
4-link deal is pretty cool. I was actually just thinking today. My wife was saying something, I don't know. I was thinking about an S10.
She was just, having a full-on conversation with you.
We were going to get groceries, and she was mumbling about something. I don't really know. But I was like, man, CJ's 1 now. Like, he probably needs an S10.
Gosh. They do make bolt-in 4-link kits now. Gosh.
4-link kit would be so much cooler. Like a drag and
travel.
drive truck. Like, I don't know.
You could just bolt it right in.
Well, she should be careful. Like, if you're going to start mumbling something, I'm going to start thinking about drag cars and drag racing almost immediately.
That gets expensive. She better start speaking up.
Yeah, and, S10s are so good.
They are. Dude, they're like, I don't know of a better platform right now than an S10. Whether it's, it is somewhat of a short wheelbase, I guess, for a radial truck, but still, they're so light. There's so many aftermarket parts. They're still pretty cheap, and I think they look awesome.
No, they're super cool, and the wheelbase seems great and everything. Would that kit go in like a Blazer?
No, the Blazers have different frames.
Do they?
Yeah,
that seems odd.
S10 from, I think it's 80 something to 2003 or 4, same frames.
Weird. It almost seems like Chevy would have used the same frame, but I guess they just were like,
there's something different about the Blazers. They have like a kick-in somewhere that I have no idea.
Freaking Chevy. Ford would have used the same thing for 50 years.
I know.
Like if you buy like a Fox body, it's like yeah, this came members from 72 to 2008. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
And it's on 12 different cars.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it would have fit on a Crown Vic. It would have fit on this
Explorer.
G-body. Yeah, Explorer,
LTD, you
Yeah.
name it. Like, okay, I guess it just fits everything.
Old Delta, everything.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about Ford. They actually were pretty consistent on that stuff. It's similar with Nissan. Like, Nissan stuff is so interchangeable with other
Really?
Nissan stuff. Like
See, I've never really worked on Nissans.
diffs and like axles and brakes and like everything for like 50 years of Nissans. Like, yeah, it's the same everything. Same bolt patterns and everything. And
I didn't know that.
freaking, everybody but Chevy kind of does that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Like, and it's funny you're saying that because today I heard Kai talking about his Buick, and he said that's the same rear end that was in my 5th gen Camaro. Same 16-inch on center or 16-inch split 4-link bars or whatever. And I'm like, to build multiple cars and try to have the same 4-link width, so the stuff's interchangeable. That's smart. That dude's smarter than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting there thinking, like, OEM manufacturers do it with literally everything.
Yeah,
like
the same thing.
there's so much that goes into stuff, and then there's also some manufacturers that could really take notes.
One thing on rear end stuff, I was talking to Nick Pluniak, and he was like, yeah, like when I designed my car, I wanted to make sure it was like the Fox body width, so when I'm no prep racing, I don't end up in somebody else. Like, I don't have tracks that are out
the
here,
grooves. Yeah,
and I'm not in their groove. And I was like,
that's one
pretty smart move.
That's one problem. Our buddy Austin Shepard, he's got I don't know if you've seen it. It's a rusty RX-7 with a big wing on it. Turbos are in the back. He
I've
does
seen
like
those.
flying wheelies across the line.
I've seen that.
The car's so narrow, it's hard to find the right track. He's inside of everybody else's.
It's like one tire can be in the
that's
groove
kind
if
of
you
how
want.
it is.
Well, we tried that with Mountain Dew too, way back long in the day. He had 13-inch alphas on it, and we're like, oh, well, maybe the sidewall's not getting smashed enough because it's stretched.
There
Threw a 10 and a
wasn't
half
enough
in it.
sidewall.
Oh my gosh, that car drove everywhere because it was trying to find the
No,
lanes,
it was
and
because my front
well, the
my
front
front
wheels
track width was way
oh
wider
my
than
gosh,
my
we were
rear
a foot and
track
a half
width.
wider. You couldn't even see. It looked like the rear end was floating under there. You couldn't see like.
But that was another problem also. That we were just trying to see if a 10-inch wheel would work better, but
Yeah.
obviously I couldn't get anybody's groove, and the track width was way wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, it's weird how that little stuff makes such a difference that
It
you wouldn't
does.
even think about.
And most people don't even think that. I mean, that's the big thing.
When it comes down to it, though, it's just all about weight. Like there's like a minimum weight you have to have on your rear tire to go down a backside surface. I don't care how light your car is or what your rear bias is. If you don't have X amount of pounds on a 28-10.5, it's gonna spin.
Yeah. Well, even, I was thinking about backside a lot lately because Garrett's got that all-wheel drive race coming up, and pretty excited about that one.
You want to know something? When I was here in 2022, right when I got here, I was talking to James Hall, and we were at the big end of the track. I said, dude, you could have a badass backside race here. And he's like, they would never let us on the backside here. I'm like, whatever. And I never say anything else about it. Now they're like having all these backside races here. I'm like, wow, I wish I could go.
He wasn't wrong. Garrett just had to buy half the track.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
That was what made it happen,
He knew he was going to be buying it, so he let him do it.
I think he bought it,
Oh,
and he
okay.
was doing it, and then they announced it.
I'm not
probably
up
more
to
like
date
that.
on all the cool kids
He
stuff.
bought it.
nowadays.
He announced it recently.
I just saw it like last
Yeah,
week or
but
this week.
When he bought it and when he announced it aren't the same
Oh, I got you.
time frame.
Big
I
dog.
imagine.
Yeah.
Time frame stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork that
yeah.
A lot of
is
legit-
I
involved
couldn't even imagine.
Yep.
in
the
onboarding
logistics
a
of all that.
facility.
None of us normal folks know how it is to buy a
That's-
racetrack.
Maybe one day.
Oh, I'm sure.
Man, I don't know. I don't even know if I'd want to own a racetrack. I feel like there's so many other ways to make money.
Well, it's like putting on an event. Same thing. It's a full-time job.
Yep.
Then you don't get paid most of the time.
My wife asked me that once. She's like, "Would you ever like dream of owning a racetrack? You love racetracks." I'm like, "Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like I love racetracks. Like I don't."
I dream of owning my own test track.
Yeah.
I don't want other people at my test track. I want to go to other people's racetracks. I would like to have my own test track in my backyard.
Yeah, like a driveway long enough where I could
Yep.
do some test hits would be nice.
That's the thing. I want to change my bar angle and go see what it does. I don't want to have to rent a track to go do that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of what Garrett has now. He can go test. It looks like from the videos, at least, obviously, just assuming he can do stuff and then schedule a day and go test it and see how it goes.
Well, BMP, I mean, we have a private test rental like 3 days a week,
Really,
just all year long.
pretty nice.
At any point, you can take $300 and go test at BMP all day. If they have 10 a.m. to 6 or a 6 to 10, all the time they have these.
I should move here.
we might have to hit you up on that.
Might have to have a vacation.
There's
camper.
a Facebook page BMP testing, and there's just always testing.
That's cool.
Nice.
And it's great. It's
that's got to make for some really competitive racing.
Because there's so much testing around. Yeah.
Everybody's getting their shit together.
Yep.
Yeah, people Brett LaSala and Jim, they have a ton of passes on their cars.
Yep.
And their cars, Brett's car, it may only go one number faster every pass.
Really?
But
You're still getting there. Yeah.
They learn something every time. When I was out hanging out with their tuner the other day, he was tuning also on that new twin turbo Pro Mod as well that Pro Speed was just helping with. And he was like, oh yeah, it might go a 97 and it goes a 98. And it's oh, okay.
Dude really knows his stuff.
You're kind of on it, I guess. And I was like, oh, a 97 in quarter-mile trim. Pretty stout.
That's crazy.
Yeah, a quarter-mile drag and drive trim going 397. So it's it's pretty dumb.
It just seems unreal. Going 3s in a Pro Mod 10 years ago was crazy.
Yeah. Now a small tire car can do it.
A small tire
on
Coyote
275s.
car could drive to the track.
Yeah.
3s.
Street car can do that. Yeah.
I think Lutz is bringing his GTO, isn't he? Oh, I thought that's what I saw a photo of.
No, well,
I was excited. I was no way he's going to drive the GTO.
Everybody else, I know what he had at testing. He just had the Camaro.
Okay.
And Junior has a Camaro too, so.
Junior,
and I don't.
Junior has a car with
Jeff
him
Litz
too?
Jr. Yeah. He's got a 3rd gen.
Well, yeah, it's just a.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It's
Twin
just
turbo 408 LS.
Yep.
That's cool.
Kind of patina. Got some 17-inch spindle mounts on the front. It really scratches my itch.
There's going to be a lot of fast shit.
Oh, yeah.
The Swedes have their car. I was just talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get that thing dialed in. And
It's at the track now.
Yeah.
We just passed it.
Yeah. I haven't seen him make a run, but again, nobody's running today, so.
Yeah, he didn't come they weren't out of Orlando. They were at Bradenton. So,
Yeah.
they didn't come to Orlando to try to test.
Did Alex get her car, get some good passes in?
Oh, yeah. Yep. They made a lot of progress on our car. It's awesome.
And Dennis is riding with her again?
Yep.
What's it like getting to learn from Dennis? Because I feel like he's one of those guys where he'll build a car and then you'll look at it for 4 hours type of thing. Oh man, there's so much going on here. There's some cars you can just sit and look at every detail for hours and it's wait, where's this hinge from? And it's oh, I made that.
Yep.
It's oh.
He is old. He is the definition of old school cool, badass. He is a great teacher, and he is super smart. He'd rather build it than buy it, and he helped me a lot. My O-ring cutter, he helped me a lot because I was oh, I'm gonna do this, and I was no, that's stupid. That's not gonna work. Do it like this. And again, on a lot of other stuff, he taught me how to sandcast. The valve covers on the Isky car for SEMA, I 3D printed them, and then him and I bonded them, and Debbie sanded them down, painted them, and made plugs, and then put them in the sand, and then cut down old Dodge truck aluminum spindles, melted it down in his crucible, and then poured this aluminum in this big sand molding, and you pull out this big chunk of aluminum that says Iskandarian in it, and he machines it in his mill, hand polishes it, drills these holes, and put it on, and it's like a bill of valve cover.
How many people are building stuff like that anymore?
Nobody.
That's cool.
Oh, stitching. That's everything that's.
Oh, in his truck. Did you see his truck at PRI? You didn't go to PRI, did you? His truck at PRI, the only thing he didn't do in the interior was the seats because he had them covered last year because he was going to try to bring it to PRI and he was running out of time. But everything else, every seam on on the carpet, everything, hand stitched by him, hand cut. Him and Debbie can they can hand build anything.
That's cool. I didn't realize Debbie was so involved like that.
Oh yeah, Debbie's laid Debbie. They built fiberglass Willys bodies. He produced thousands of them. And, Debbie was there laying fiberglass, running the office.
She's more of a G than 99% of the people out there with that stuff.
That's cool. I didn't realize that it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
You always hear of husband-wife teams, but you don't know the extent.
Yep.
Of the team. I guess that's where Alex gets her oh yeah,
She's a ride or die, we say. She's ride or die.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
They're a great team. And like I said, Dennis is a great teacher. And the casting stuff, going back to that, I don't know if you maybe not have seen him on Facebook. His name's Muffrey Jenkins on Facebook, but he has a badass twin turbo S10 small tire. He's from Tennessee. But he messaged me. He's a super smart dude, super analytical, one of the smartest dudes I knew. And he's like, or I know, and he's like, I didn't know people ever use casting for custom race car parts. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's how the race car industry got started, you know, like Offenhauser.
2000.
Yeah, Offenhauser and like Edelbrock, Iskandarian, you know, like Iski was more grinding the cams and stuff. Like all these, like that's how you built custom parts back in the day. You normally made a plug out of wood, and then you sand casted it and machined it down by hand, like with an old Bridgeport or whatever. And to me, that's another one of those things that's so freaking cool. Like so many things are so hard to machine now. You look at that and you're like, you'd have to have a 5-axis CNC to make that shape. Like, no, you could actually dig a hole in the ground and melt some aluminum and put this in and put the dirt around of it, pull it out and pour this shit in and have that part in like a day.
Back to the 3D printing. 3D print it, and if it fits,
there's stuff called lost PLA. You print something with like 5% infill. You make they call it a sprue. You could bury it in the ground, and where that sprue is, you pour the aluminum in. You have another sprue. You pour the aluminum in, and it melts all that plastic out, and it all comes out the other side. And when you're done, you have this perfectly formed aluminum part. Not perfectly, but
yeah. So with 3D printing, it's almost like it can bring a resurgence of
casting. There's a lot of people doing it. YouTube lost PLA casting. There's a lot of people. And they used to do lost wax casting, and I tried to 3D print wax, and I couldn't get it right because we were just going to do that, and I couldn't get it right. So we ended up doing just the plugs and stuff. But it's like it's another one of those things that you can just it's like it has soul. Like that part has a soul, and like I love billet everything. I love CNC machines. I love the design behind that. But it's like a labor of love, you know. Like you pull out this part, this huge.
Well, it's like taking
chunk
raw
of
material
aluminum
and making it something great. I mean, that's painting a canvas, you know, painting a picture or something. You go from nothing to everything. That's the cool part. Building it yourself and building it by hand is the
straight from thin air. That's what I love about 3D printing. You design something and you watch it print out of thin air.
Yeah, it's funny. I was reminded of maybe I don't know, probably 10 years ago when me and Garrett were in college. We built this it was like a little, I don't even know how we did it, but we had like a cut fire extinguisher and we had like fire and heat and we were able to melt aluminum cans and we were able to pour it and make our own we built a foundry in my backyard just out of pure boredom because we were like, oh, let's melt all these aluminum cans down, and we only poured like a couple triangles and like some hockey pucks and stuff, but we were just like,
now you have this aluminum hockey puck you could turn on a lathe into some billet-looking piece of aluminum.
Yeah. And at the time, we weren't building cars or anything. We both had cars, but we weren't working on them really. They were just it was our car, and you can't. It's hard to work on your one car. You kind of rely
you
on.
You got to use it every day.
You can't really start tinkering with it. It's it has an LS, but I'm not going to put heads and cam in it because I need to drive it tomorrow and tonight.
That's what a responsible human being does.
Responsible.
Unfortunately, I was poor enough where I had to be responsible.
Yep. Been there, done that.
It's I can't afford to be irresponsible as much as I think I can.
My dad always got so mad at me. He's like, Nick, you don't want a loud car to drive every day. You don't want a car with a big cam. You don't want a loose converter. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I want the rowdiest thing ever.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I don't even want an exhaust on my Duramax. I want it the quietest, the most stock truck you could possibly get. I want it to ride smooth, and I want it to haul good. That's it.
Well, that's always my thing about a Tesla. It's man, I drive a race car all the time. I'd rather just
have something nice.
I'll just drive a Tesla to the to the grocery store. I don't want anyone looking at me. I don't want something lumping, loud cam. I hear a stock C6 with the biggest cam of all time and driving it daily, and I'm just
doesn't sound fun.
What, 30 horsepower?
Maybe. I used to want that attention. Now I'm the attention that attracts is not the attention I want. I don't want to be the people that want to come talk to me about my Cam C6, not the people I want to talk to. That's bad. That sounds mean, I guess, but
No, it's just like I don't need somebody looking over me at me in traffic. Like I have a CTSV. It's stock exhaust. It's got a bit of a ported blower and injectors, but it doesn't sound like it has anything.
Yeah.
Which is all I need.
Yep. You
And it's
want
like,
the power.
Even if I put a cam in it, like, is the 30 horsepower really worth that noise that I'm gonna be dealing
The
with?
drone. Oh man.
It's fine.
I hate
Well,
drone.
like I said, weekend cars. I mean, I had an LS swap 350Z that weekend car.
Yeah.
I mean, my Duramax for daily and stuff. But like,
Yeah.
that's the time and aspect. I mean, and that's
Well,
what
yeah,
people
if you
always,
just get a cruiser to cruise to like the Suds or something,
Yeah.
like that's cool.
Well, and I always tell people like, not let alone like the girlfriend gets mad at me all the time because we'll be cruising, a kid sits there, I'll give it a rev, I'm like, I was once that kid, like you still gotta get that out there. And like we go to these, like he just said, the Suds. I've been going to the Suds. It's an Indy. It's downtown Greenwood since I've been literally like
root beer floats,
5 years old.
It's
I mean,
awesome.
I was 5 going down there. I lived right across the street. And now, when I was growing up, going to these places, I'm like, oh, dude, that guy's got a cool car. Oh, that guy. And now it's like, now we're that age, and we're those guys with those cool cars. The cammed out CTSVs, the twin turboed cars, the stuff.
Yep.
Now it's like back in the day in my old 4.6 SN95, thinking I'm cool in high school and stuff. Like yeah, but like then she gets mad at me all the time. I'm like, I still got to keep that. Like that's still it's that like
You got to give that kid that experience.
exactly. Yeah, I love it. Like that's me, and I still do that. But yeah, the if it's a weekend car, all by all means go out and have
make
fun.
it noisy
Yeah.
for sure. If it's
we all have race cars, so yeah. I mean that's.
like over here, like the next exit down, we have like one of the biggest cars and coffee in the country, like for
Really?
baller cars type
that's
of thing. So you could show up with the loudest cammed out car, and there's like hyper cars that are like $2 million. And you're
Oh
like,
gosh.
it's gonna be hard to compete with that because that thing's full carbon fiber body, and it's like
That's gonna get
we
the
went out to
attention.
it's a V12. I don't know why.
That's a little out of my price range.
You win, dude.
When we went to Hoonigan's, we were down south, and I was in South California, and I lived down there. And I told him, I was like, oh, it's called San Clemente Cars and Coffee. But it's like you said, hyper cars. I mean, it's all over.
Baller.
You look on, YouTube, you go to that. Like, it's crazy. We took Mountain Dew there. And, like, they wouldn't even let us pull in. So we had to go
It's
under
on methanol.
Yeah,
Doesn't even have a cooling system.
Oh,
and
yeah. The thing's like just cammed, LS
People
twin
were like,
turboed, cammed out.
What is this thing?
And they wouldn't let us in. So I was like, no way, we got to go into the garage and come around the backside.
we
I was
went
like, I
on the
got you. I used to
backside.
do this all the time. Don't worry about it. So we got in there, and people just come by and just.
They had no idea what it's like. They'd never seen
yeah.
a race car before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know what a Lambo is, but they're like,
Yeah. Lambo, Porsches. I mean, McLarens, everything were there. But
Well, one of the first times like I went, I was like, oh, I'm gonna bring the Camaro. Like,
be cool.
I was sweating my ass off. I was dying. I was no power steering. I parked like in the back. I was like, that was so
this is
dumb
not
of
fun.
me.
This is not
I was
fun.
like, I should have just came and walked around.
Yeah.
Just enjoyed the coffee and cars. And it's like 8 a.m., 7 a.m. You gotta leave, and
It's always
Oh,
a hassle.
man.
You say it the day before, too. You're like, I'm going to wake up early and go to Cars and Coffee. And that day is like, I don't really want to. This
Yeah, you
sucks. I'm
get
going to
up.
sleep in. No, I don't need to get it out. It's such a hassle.
yeah, like it's not worth it. I'll
Yeah,
just go
I-
racing.
I don't want to go to the
track.
garage and open it up and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got caught in the rain on the radials. I'm like, I felt like such an idiot. I was like,
Oh, dude.
just to think I was cool for a minute.
I used to drive around 24/7 on drag pack on the 350Z, and I'd be like, "It's about to rain, guys. I gotta leave work. Like, I'm gonna be screwed. I gotta take the highway. I gotta get out of here."
That's what Jimmy Dell was saying. He was like, why does everybody switch wheels and tires? Why don't they just like drive on them? I'm like, oh,
You get caught in the rain, especially if you have a spool. I mean, most
Yeah,
cars
you're
have spools.
You're screwed.
I've driven in the rain on some radials and stuff, but sometimes it's a lot easier to hydroplane. Like you can drive down the road, but it's a lot easier to hydroplane, especially if you're going on a curve or whatever.
Well, the
It's
power glide's
dangerous.
tough too because even if you're going like off the gas, you click it and it unsettles the car.
Oh, yeah.
The car just gets unsettled and it's like, whoa.
Well, the big thing is starting off, especially with glide. You got to give it some
Yeah.
balls to get going, and then it's like it just sits there and spins.
I got
Like, well, I'm not
180
going
cubic
anywhere.
inch.
Yeah.
He's got a 6-cylinder.
I'm on the trans brake trying to get out of the stop.
It's like when I drove to Vegas, I was like, I got to put the thing on the chip just to get off the stoplight from now on. Like, yeah.
Need like a 93 trans brake tune up on that.
Give me a push while
Like
you're
a
out
dump
there.
valve.
Yeah,
He
make
needs
my
a
partner
lockup.
get out.
Yeah,
He needs to
give you a
lock up.
bump behind you, start you going. Like,
They were doing that with Brett's car one day where, because OSW has speed bumps only freaking drag strip in the world that has speed bumps leaving.
SGMP does. It ripped my mid plate out of my car.
Oh yeah, SGMP. I lost my exhaust because of that. That's the worst. Speed bumps at a drag strip need to stop. Need to do away with it.
Ban them. We're gonna have Trump sign an executive order.
Yeah. If it's really a problem with people, like I know Orlando has some events where people like they rip up and down that entryway. I don't know. Put something there for that event and then move it.
Pay somebody to sit there with a freaking golf cart. You know what I mean? Like just. Yeah, it's a pain.
But like for the sick week, it's tough to have speed bumps anywhere.
My car is my car is literally 3 inches off the ground. The front is like.
It's going to be dragging on those speed bumps.
It is. Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to get over them.
We made it.
I'm going to take my race ramps with me. I'll use my race ramps to get over them.
We made it to where the nose has 3 different levels to where we can pick up. Did you still do that on the new front end?
No.
Oh. Well, we did that when we first did it. Before we got the new front end, we had 3 different prongs so we could tip the nose up.
No, that wouldn't.
On Uncle Sam, yes, we did.
It had a different hole, but we didn't put them on there. It was already on there.
Oh.
For the rear of Brett's car, Jim got out and he would like stand on the back of the trailer and it would just give it like enough of like a little bit of tilt just to get the side skirts from hitting.
Gosh.
Because it's tough. I mean, my Camaro is not super low and the exhaust is out the side, so I'm not worried about that. But like something's probably gonna drag, and it's like
his car is definitely screwed. Your car's scraping over every single one of them. You better be going sideways all the way over that.
Hopefully they do something here. But we can wrap this up, guys. I know you got to get back to Kai and help him on stuff.
Somebody kept calling me twice,
party.
So I had to see.
No, you're good. We've been going for an hour, 45 minutes anyways.
That went fast.
Yeah, shoot.
Goes quick. So where can people follow you? Where can they follow along Sick Week? Where can they follow along for either Instagram, YouTube, buy Facebook. Parts?
So NickyBobbyInc.com is my parts business, my webpage. Nicky Bobby Inc. on YouTube, Nicky Bobby Inc. on Facebook, Nicky Bobby Inc. on Instagram, Nick Taylor personal on Facebook, and Nicky Bobby on Instagram, my personal Instagram. So,
like always, guys, all the links will be in the description. But thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having us.
Finally, we got together.
It was like 2-3 years in the making.
Many years in the making. I'm sure it won't be your last time on.
Yeah.
So follow him along on Sick Week, and go follow him now, because when he makes a call that we might need parts on Sick Week, it's always best to have more followers.
Big bucks, no whammies. Big bucks, no whammies.
Good deal. Well, I'll see you guys later.